Chapter 1. The Decision That Changed Everything. I never thought I'd be that girl, the one who leaves her boyfriend for someone else while still in a relationship. But that's how it happened. George was a good guy, caring, attentive, easy to be with. But comfort isn't passion. It's not fire. It's not that sticky feeling when your heart races just from looking at someone. That's how I justified what I did. And then Thomas appeared. We met at a friend's corporate party, tall with piercing gray eyes, dressed in an expensive suit that fit him like it had been tailored to his broad shoulders. He didn't say much, but every word hit its mark. When he smiled, tiny lines gathered at the corners of his eyes, and I wanted to trace them with my finger. "You don't look like the kind of person who usually hangs around here," he said, sipping his whiskey. "And what do I look like?" I tilted my head. "Like someone who deserves more." And just 2 weeks later, I was standing in George's cozy apartment where we'd spent so many evenings together, saying, "We need to break up." He didn't yell, didn't beg. He just lowered his eyes and quietly asked, "Are you sure?" "Yes." Chapter 2. First Date with Thomas. Thomas set up our date at La Pearl, one of the most upscale restaurants in the city. I put on a black dress that hugged every curve of my body, heels that made my legs look endless, and mascara that gave my eyes a wet, smoky look. When I walked into the room, my heart was pounding. Thomas was already waiting at a table by the window, the city lights twinkling behind him. He stood up, greeting me with a warm smile, and ran his hand along my back as I sat down. "You look stunning." "Thank you," I smiled, feeling my cheeks flush. The waiter handed us the menu, and I gasped. The prices were astronomical. "Don't look at the numbers," Thomas chuckled. "Tonight is about us." I relaxed. Wine, laughter, his stories about traveling. I was already imagining us together. And then, "The owner is here tonight," the waiter suddenly said, leaning toward Thomas. "Would you like him to personally recommend a wine for you?" "Certainly, of course," Thomas nodded. I was still smiling when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Good evening, guests. I'd recommend our signature." I slowly turned around and saw George. In a perfect suit, his gaze cold. He looked at me, and there wasn't even a hint of surprise in his eyes, only calm. "George?" I whispered. "Anna," he nodded. "Glad to see you in my restaurant." My restaurant. My fingers clutched the edge of the table. "You own this place?" Thomas frowned, glancing between me and George. "You two know each other?" George smiled, too calmly. "Oh yes, very well."
"You never told me you owned a restaurant," I blurted out after George walked off to another table.
"You never asked," he shrugged. Thomas was looking at me confused. "Anna, what's going on?" I opened my mouth but didn't get a chance to answer. Just then, another man approached our table, tall with an intense gaze. "Thomas," he placed a hand on Thomas's shoulder. "You forgot we have a meeting in 10 minutes. Thomas frowned. "Damn, right. Anna, I'm sorry, I have to. This is my business partner." I froze. You're not the owner?" Thomas laughed. "No, I'm just an investor. This is the real owner of the restaurant chain." The man smiled. "Which includes this one." I felt the floor disappear beneath me. George was the owner. Thomas was not, and I had made a huge mistake.